So, Peter, I wanted to talk to you about how did a math major at MIT, got inspired by marketing, especially by Leigh McAllister, and I
I
think
love it.
that's a lovely story. And why don't we start there? Because normally marketing is associated with the soft skills, but here is a math major becoming a professor of marketing. So, how did it happen?
I am so glad that we're starting off with this because it's so important not only to give credit where it's due, but to acknowledge that we would not be having this conversation if it were not for that professor you mentioned, a woman named Lee McAllister. When I was an undergraduate at MIT, a math major, as you said, loved crunching numbers, all kinds of things, whether it's sports statistics or just trivia and so on. Well, we could talk about dollar bill numbers if we can get into that. I just love numbers and patterns. I figured I'd end up either on Wall Street or in consulting. I was even talking to folks about doing something in terms of like cryptography, actuarial science, something that a math major would go into. Well, in 1982, this marketing professor, comes up to me and says, "You ought to get a PhD in marketing." And I said to her, and she will acknowledge it, I said, "You ought to get your head checked. I'm a math guy. I'm not going into marketing." That's the last thing I would think about doing because I had the same impression about marketing that so many other people do. But she not only was very persistent and persuasive, but she painted a picture of what she called at the time the electron microscope of the customer. We are building the electron microscope of the customer, and we need people to operate it. We need people to understand what we should be looking at, how to interpret those results, what actions we should be taking off of those results, what strategies we should develop. And she said, "And you're the guy." And I thought she was a kook. And that's where the persistence and persuasion came in. She kind of forced me to get my PhD, become a professor, and actually come to the Wharton School, even though I was very skeptical. And here I am, nearly 40 years later, thanking her every day and doing everything I can to pay it forward, to find other students who would be equally skeptical about marketing or at least uninformed about the kinds of things that we can do, the kinds of decisions we can affect, the kinds of money that we can help create. And just every day is a joy because that electron microscope of the customer, it works beautifully, and the insights that it provides really are life changing.